Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video I'm going to be providing 5 technical tips on how you can improve as a battler as we go into season 6. Before season 5 I did 5 tips on how you mentally approach the game, like how you envision the game, like how you stay motivated, and there was a lot of comments and feedback saying that they want to see some technical tips, and these are techniques that very elite battlers implement in order to gain an advantage and to be able to win more games and to rank up quicker. So anyways, the first one is a fast move denial. So I can go through this whole video and on how to do it and implement it, but just go watch Wallover's video. Wallover's is the master of these advanced techniques, so definitely go subscribe to him. I'll include a link to his channel and the video either in the description or in the pinned comment. But yeah, fast move denial is a great way to get an energy advantage, a great way to win mirror matches, and it's just I've won so many games by implementing the fast move denial. And essentially, the premise of it is that it's like we're not entirely sure. Well, there's not entirely consistent on whether or not you get a fast move or not during your opponent's charge moves, but there is a technique that will reliably allow you to deny your opponent from getting a fast move while you're throwing a charge move. Obviously, it's circumstantial and like whether or not the timing will align for you, but it's a great technique that will allow you to win mirror matches or very close matches. So I definitely encourage you to watch Wallover's video. The next tip I have is force your opponent to be inefficient. Force your opponent to throw charge moves into a Pokemon that resists. So that, for example, that could be catching a charge move in the lead. So for example, if you have like, let's say you have like Obama, like you have a Azumarill, they have an Abomasnow. So ideally, it would be great if you could have them throw the energy ball into Skarmory that you might have in the back, or into the Marowak that you have in the back, or some other. Or oftentimes, what I like to do is like if I have like let's say I have Venusaur versus Abomasnow, and then I have Azumarill in the back, and then I have Marowak. I obviously don't want to go into Marowak right away because that's my hard counter. If they switch out, then Abomasnow is going to sweep. So what I like to do is I either like to throw the Sludge Bomb first, grab a shield, get a sense of like when they're going to throw the move, and then eventually catch the Weather Ball onto Azumarill. So that way I have this Azumarill versus Abomasnow matchup, which is a bad matchup, but they've already wasted a bunch of energy on their side that they could have threw into Venusaur, but they end up throwing into Azumarill, which Azumarill is just going to be able to tank really easily and absorb the move. So I'm going to show an example of that when it comes to Whiscash and Skarmory lead from the Catch Cup. This is going to be the video example for tip number 2, which is how to make your opponent inefficient. So you make them inefficient by having them throw charge moves into Pokemon that would resist the move. And this is very valuable in the lead scenario. I'm going to show 2 examples of this in the lead. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. These are both in the Catch Cup. Obviously, Mud Boys are going to be very weak to Shift Tree because obviously that Leaf Blade basically one-shots. A little bit lag at the beginning, but I know it takes 3 Snarls to get there, so I just predict when they're going to throw the Leaf Blade, given the lag, and then I switch out and catch the Leaf Blade, and that way they're throwing instead of being double super effective, it's going to be double resisted, which ended up allowing me to win the game a little bit later by getting a little bit of energy. So we're playing another lead. Obviously, Whiscash is not going to be that good against Skarmory. You can technically win the one shield, but it's pretty tough because you have to land a bunch of blizzards. So what I like to do here is I like to get a feel of how my opponent likes to play. So they threw after 6 air slashes to CMP tie on the blizzard, which is a very nice play by them. So I'm going to throw here. I'm going to throw the blizzard. No air slash went through. So I know it's 4 more air slashes to the sky attack. Even though they overcharge the first time, oftentimes people don't like to overcharge the second time. That's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, and then I go and catch the sky attack, and that allows me that forces them to throw the sky attack into it instead of being neutral into being resisted, and as well their Skarmory is going to be low. I have energy loaded onto my Mud Boy. The next tip I have is to read teams. So are they common teams? Is this a video that Zionic put out, that Caleb put out, a team that I featured? Are these teams that are very commonly used, right? So you can get a sense of that as you look at the lead, as you look at their counter switch, and you use that to try to understand like what is their potential third Pokemon, and that can really drive your decisions. What are they weak to? So for example, if they have a grass type and a charmer, right, then they're kind of weak to steel types, right? They're kind of weak to, so maybe they have a Marowak in the back, right? So like you got to think about like what they potentially could be weak to, and what kind of coverage do they need in order to make this a balanced team. Sometimes the teams are completely random and don't really make that much sense from a team building perspective, or someone just randomly put it together. But that's fine, right? It's better to try to make the prediction and use that information to be right most of the time, and sometimes you're going to be completely wrong. But understanding what the common teams are and how to read them and make a prediction in the back. And this is why I tell my students, I'm like, okay, what do you think is in the back? Like, what Pokemon do you think it is? How can that influence your decision? Do you shield here? Do you not? Which Pokemon do you switch into after you one switch? And you really need to think about that. So I'm going to show you some examples of how reading teams has helped me win some games. And this is a technique that you want to start implementing, trying to understand. And then you'll do this with practice as well. Go watch someone stream and just say like, okay, I think that it's going to be this in the back, right? And just write it down and see if you're right or wrong. Okay, no, it's not that. It was actually this. Okay, is that someone's team that they featured? Does that make sense in terms of coverage, etc., etc.? And as you get better, you'll see. Oftentimes on stream, I'll be like, okay, they probably have this in the back. And then, sometimes I'm wrong, but I would say 3/4 of the time I'm right, and I use that information to help me win games. The next examples I'm going to be showing with you are going to be reading teams, and this is where practice makes perfect, right? So I'm going to show you an example of where I didn't read the team properly and ended up screwing up. So, I lead a Mud Boy into Bastodon. This is a very favorable lead for me. So they come into a grass type, and then I immediately go to Skarmory. That's my mistake right there, because I know they have a Shadow Vic in the back. I should have went Obstagoon here, because I'm just not gonna be able to beat this team, and you're gonna see how this is gonna play out, and then how I encounter this team again and play it slightly differently. So I am looking to farm down. I'm not really sure what else I can do at this point in time. At this point in time, I realized that I made a huge mistake. And they're actually waiting the clock a little bit, which actually is a little bit better for me. But unfortunately, they got a smackdown through. So I'm going to hit the Sky Attack. Both moves are double resisted. And you're going to see that. I'm not sure what I was trying to do there. I just realized that it was pretty much over for me. So I actually should have waited the clock out and then switched out and then saved the move. But in the end, it didn't really matter too much. Yeah, because I'm going to go into Obstagoon here. They switch out into, in this case, it's not Shadow Vic, but it's pretty much just as bad as Shadow Vic because it does resist my moves, and they have 2 shields left. So this game is basically over. I'm basically faking a gunk shot here. I don't know why. There's basically no chance for me at this stage, and they decide to not to shield, which is kind of a risky play on their part. I guess I was 1 counter short of the gunk shot, so it was a nice play by them. But they really should just double shield, because there's no way I was going to be able to bait and get to the gunk shot. But nice play by them. So I messed up there. I have to realize when I see a Bastodon lead and a grass switch in that and if it's not the grass that resists counter, then I have to go to Obstagoon. So you're going to see how I'm going to play that out. The second time around, I face a very similar team. So that was an a very successful venture there. So we're going to go into this matchup here. Again, we're going to see a oh, okay. Looks like there was I think there might have been like a error in that particular match. So just the way I cropped it was kind of weird. Anyways, again, running to this Bastion lead. Great lead. So now that I've learned what I need to do, I go straight into Obstagoon. Obstagoon's going to be able to hit for neutral with these counters. I am going to be able to outspam this Cherim, which is going to be very favorable for me. Obviously, these Razor Leafs hurt, and they technically can win switch advantage by double shielding, but they actually don't end up shielding. So at this point in time, my best chance to win switch advantage is just to counter down. Don't throw a move, because if I throw a move, that means that they might get a Razor Leaf in, and I'll get no counter damage. So at this point in time, I have way more health in it, so I'm just going to focus on countering down. And it would have been really close if I could get to another move. And then, actually, I was trying to see whether or not they were going to come in with, and they actually just ended up deleting me. So that kind of sucked, but it's all good at this point in time. This Victory Bell is totally locked in, and there's really nothing this Victory Bell can do to my Skarmory, and they decide to leave the match, and that allows me to, effectively read the team, understand that I can't go into my hard counter even when they're switch locked in, and that's how you read teams and allow yourself to be more effective. Here's a third example of how reading teams can help you win a game. In this case, this is in the Ultra League Premier, and I have Escavalier into Magnezone. Okay, so this is a very good lead for me. Generally, there's a couple ways they can play this. They can stay and Wild Charge, which is what they're likely going to do. Wild Charge doesn't quite KO, but it does a lot of damage. They Wild Charge, and then they're going to bail. So as soon as I see the Gallade, I know that there's a Venusaur in the back, right? And I have Swampert and Clefable in the back. So I'm just going to throw these two Aerial Aces into this Gallade because they do super effective damage, and this is a Shadow. So I know I'm going to be able to grab both shields or pretty much KO the Gallade. And then I switch out into Clefable, and now I'm in a really good position. But I'm going to show you how reading the team is going to be super helpful for me. So they Leaf Blade. That's great. And I'm going to be able to charm it down. So I know that there's a Venusaur in the back. Or I don't know that there's a Venusaur in the back, but I have a very high likelihood that there is one. I tried to go for the Psychic here. I definitely could have went for the Meteor Mash, but they ended up throwing anyways. So they are... So knowing that there is a Venusaur in the back, and my Escavalier has taken some damage here, I'm actually going to go straight into Swampert. And I'm going to look to throw this sludge wave here, because basically this by getting a little bit of energy advantage against this Venusaur, it allowed me to get to the charge move, and it does quite a bit of damage. And they obviously don't want to get hit by another one, so I let it go. And basically my Escavalier can sweep now. So I didn't have to worry too much about the charge moves from Magnezone onto Swampert, because it resists everything. And then as well, Escavalier is a great counter to Venusaur. And as well, I know that they did bank energy on their Magnezone, which was a really nice play on their side. And I'm going to look to build up. And I preserve the shield, and I'm very close to their move, and as well their Magnezone is super low. So by effectively reading that team, it prevented me from ending up in a situation where it would have been Swampert versus Venusaur. So reading that team in advance allowed me to make a more effective decision. So obviously you're not going to always be right on the team reads, but the more that you practice and anticipate what they're going to have in the back, the more successful you're going to be. So anyways, that's how I end up reading teams to allow me to win more games. The next technique is play aggressively. I tell this to my students, and I think this is a really big edge for those that are like on average to elite battlers. Like, playing aggressively is a really great way to force your opponent to make mistakes. So, for example, you play aggressively by switching out constantly. So you'll see, like, for example, 2-0 Butters is like one of the masters of playing aggressively. You'll see he'll constantly switch out of matchups, give up switch advantage, and et cetera, to try to gain an edge. And there's a couple of reasons why you want to do that. One is you want to eliminate the energy. So I'll show some examples of this. But if your opponent has a lot of energy and you want to switch out really right away, one-shot that Pokemon, and then get rid of all their energy so that they can't use it, that might be enough to help you win the game. You want to avoid getting farmed down. And there's a couple reasons why you want to avoid getting farmed down. The first one is that both your Pokemon are good against the Pokemon that is coming in. So, for example, if you win the lead, let's say, for example, you have Melmetal in the lead versus, I don't know, Dialga, right? You have Melmetal versus Dialga in the lead, right? Melmetal wins that one, but it throws a bunch of superpowers to take out the Dialga, and they come in with Giratina, and you have Togekiss and Dialga in the back. Don't let your Melmetal get farmed down, because what's going to happen is if that Giratina Origin has too much energy, it can actually flip the positive matchups in the back. So a loaded Giratina can beat a Dialga. A loaded Giratina can beat a Togekiss. And plus, both your Pokemon are good against Giratina. So just switch into Dialga. And plus, why would they stay Dialga versus the Melmetal unless they also had something weak to Melmetal in the back? So switch out, draw that third Pokemon, know that your other Pokemon can beat Giratina in the back. And then you should be, even if it's a losing matchup, let's say it's like Togekiss, right? And Togekiss with 2 shields can beat Dialga, but with the assistance of half health Melmetal, it should be able to beat it. Then you'll have Togekiss to sweep in the back. So avoid getting farmed down, and you're gonna see in these matchups or if both your Pokemon are bad against it, then try to get an energy advantage, right? Try to even it out, try to do something just to avoid getting farmed down. I've seen so many people win lead, get farmed down, and then they have a counter switch. They have a good Pokemon against it, but it's not good if it has an energy disadvantage. And force your opponents to make decisions. Force your opponents to potentially make the incorrect decision because they're under pressure. Because they know if they don't switch out fast enough, they're going to lose the game. And oftentimes your opponents will make mistakes that way. This is how to play aggressively here. This is the first of 3 examples. So I am running a team of Gengar, Lapras, and Crustle, which is Caleb Pang's Season 4 Ultra Premier team. And I'm going against Housedark. And Housedark is a very elite battler. He definitely does his homework. So as soon as he sees the lead, he's pretty much knows what I'm going to be running. So I have to take that into consideration. Both my Pokemon are good in the back, but I do want to play at this lead to be able to gain a little bit of advantage. And I have an idea of how I want to play it. So I go straight for the Sludge Bomb. Because normally I would bait against most opponents, but I try to be a little bit tricky when it comes to people that I've battled in the past to not make it so predictable. So he ends up shielding. This is likely a Dragon Claw. But let's see. It is a Dragon Claw because people love to bait against Gengar. But Gengar is a little bit tanky here. So I end up throwing this Shadow Punch. And I know he's not going to shield the Shadow Punch. I have a Crustle that deals double super effective damage with the Smackdowns. So I just switch out and then I just delete his Charizard. And that way, now all the energy that he gained, he was almost at a Blast Burn, is basically gone. And that ultimately allowed me to preserve the Gengar for a sack switch later, as well eliminate all the energy. Because the Blast Burn, even though Crustle and Lapras are both very good against Charizard, they both lose in CMP, and they both don't want to take Blast Burns. So that allowed me to be able to eliminate his energy, and as well get a little bit of an energy advantage against his Pokemon in the back. And then that allowed me to not be down shield. So I could have no shield right now here, and then he'd be able to take out my Crustle. But he doesn't. and I'm going to be able to farm. So you can see here, he implements a technique that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, which is not to get farmed down, because what's the point of getting farmed down here for a little bit of Vine Whip damage? The energy is going to be too valuable on Crustle here. So I'm in a really good spot right now. I shouldn't actually faint to this this Dark Pulse. I think I'll actually barely survive this one. I don't remember. Yeah, I do. And then I go for the Rock Slide. And this game is pretty much over. By being able to eliminate the energy allowed me to conserve the shield. And by wasting all his energy. And then I switch out. No point in trying to get farmed down. The smackdown damage is not worth the snarl energy that he'll be getting. And the only thing I'm concerned about here, there's not really too much I'm not concerned about here, because the Sludge Wave does hurt, which is a really great technique by him. And I'm only really concerned that he's potentially going to be able to sack switch. But I know I can just commit to farming down his muck, so there's not really any risk there. He's probably going to switch. Yeah, he is. To get a little bit of energy on Venusaur to be able to do a little bit of damage. But I already have the Surf ready, so I'm going to be able to take out this Venusaur right away. And his muck is basically at no HP, and I'm able to take it out. So by playing aggressively, switching out and landing that double super effective smackdown allowed me to get an edge in that match, which ultimately allowed me to win it. This is example number 2 of playing aggressively. And the moral of this one is not to get farmed down. And I'm going to be walking through this match to show you how avoiding getting farmed down ultimately allowed me to win this match. So Gengar versus Venusaur is a great lead. I do resist the Vine Whips and the Frenzy Plant and double resist Sludge Bomb, so I know I'm in a really good spot here. I can easily tank this Frenzy Plant. Not easily, but better than it is in Great League. So I know I'm not going to be able to get Vine Whip down. It does a huge chunk because that's Frenzy Plant for you. They switch out into Snorlax. I end up throwing the Sludge Bomb. That probably is a slight mistake here. I don't think I have a great counter switch into Snorlax. So I go into Lapras here. Venusaur is very good against the rest of my team, so I just wanted to make sure that I could come out with a little bit of energy here. It's very unlikely that they would superpower here, so I take the Body Slam. They did have the energy for the superpower, but it would be dangerously early to be able to throw that early. And I potentially can farm down here. And if they throw a move right now, this is definitely a Body Slam. It still hurts, but Lapras is pretty tanky. So I know that they have a Venusaur lead. Right, so I'm trying to take that into consideration. I'm waiting for them to come in. And they actually come into Ampharos here. So my Switch Clock is about to come up. And I realize that Venusaur can beat both my Pokemon in the back. So I'm not going to get farmed down. I'm actually going straight into Crustle and look to gain an energy advantage. Because what's the point of getting farmed down for a little bit of Ice Shard damage? There's no way I'm going to be able to make another move. And I know if this Ampharos gets too much energy, it's going to be able to sweep my entire team. So I don't allow it to get farmed down. I am going to build up energy because I know that Venusaur is still extremely healthy, and the Venusaur is much more of a concern to me because its moves hit so hard. So I'm going to be able to look to potentially farm this all the way down, and they actually switch out. And I go for the X-Scissor bait. Honestly, I could have double Rock Slided. That probably would have been the safest play. But as long as I can get damage off here and do quite a bit, and I know that I'm thinking that they're thinking that I'm going to bait, so I end up going straight for the Rock Slide. But really the more important part is I didn't let my Lapras get farmed down. So I ended up letting go through, which is fine for me. And I believe I actually end up shielding this because I know that at this point in time my Crustle can just sweep all the Pokemon, and they're forced to throw into Crustle, and even if the Volt Switch ends up KOing it, I can basically Shadow Claw down, and I'm in a really good spot here. So that's example number 1 on how, or example number 2, I should say, of how avoiding getting farmed down allowed me to ultimately So here's example number 3 of playing aggressively. So I have Escavalier into Swampert. This is a slightly negative lead for Escavalier, especially since I don't have Mega Horn. But these counters are doing quite a bit of damage. So they just got to the Hydro Cannon. So I'm not going to shield because I know it's a Hydro Cannon, not an Earthquake. An Earthquake would basically one-shot. So I am looking to build up some little bit of energy. I know that it's going to take them 4 more mud shots to get to it. So I throw at basically when they get 3 more mud shots, so they still need 1 more to get to the Hydro Cannon. And they switch out to Charizard to try to eliminate my energy. And I switch out into Swampert just in time. And I'm going to throw this Hydro Cannon here. Their Swampert is loaded, so I need to take that in consideration. That Hydro Cannon did a lot of damage, and normally you need to throw 2 charge moves into the Charizard, but I realized it switched in on a counter, so it's a little bit lower health. And now this is part 1 of playing aggressively. So you're gonna see, I'm gonna let this go, and now I'm committed to farming down this Charizard, especially since it just dumped all its energy. I know it's 4 more, so that's 3, and then they were on their way to their 4th. So I'm in a really good spot right now. This Swampert, I believe, is still 1 off the charge move. And okay, nope. Or 1 CMP. I think they got a mud shot through when I came in, then they threw the move. Because they should have been 1 off. And they get another mud shot through. And I throw the Hydro Cannon. They have no shields left, so this should KO. Or almost KO. They switch into Muck. And I'm going to get this Hydro Cannon off. And then I realize that my Escavalier is actually 1 counter away from the move. So what I can't let happen is that they farm me down. So I switch out, play aggressively, switch into Escavalier, get that extra counter in before they get another charge move off on Muck. Before they get to enough energy on Muck. So a lot of people would have stayed. Versus the Swampert versus the Muck, and then potentially get farmed down, and then they throw a move into Escavalier, and then they sludge bomb Clefable in the back, potentially, depending what moveset they're running, and then that would be game over. So avoiding, like, playing aggressively, switching aggressively, keeps your opponents on their toes and allows you to win more games. So anyways, that's example number 3 for that category. So I'll show you some examples of that. Last piece of advice is envision how you will win. So think about, especially after the lead and, you know, the second Pokemon's down to half its health, envision how you're going to win the game, especially once you see the last Pokemon. Envision how you win the game. Okay, do you win the game by baiting? Do you have to win the game by, you know, not baiting? Do you have to win it by undercharging? Do you have to win it by sack switching? Just like play when you're playing at the match, just envision how you're going to win this game. Okay, I know I need to eventually land this Draco Meteor. I need to land this Thunderbolt. I need to land this Hydro Pump, right? So like, how do you get there? Like, how do you take the steps to get there? And I'm going to show off some videos of certain techniques that I used where my opponents played really well, and where I envision how I was going to win, and then executed on that vision. And as long as you have a plan, you're more likely to be successful. So anyways, I'm going to show off the videos of that, and that's going to be the end of the video. Hopefully you found that helpful and you can be able to implement some of these techniques into Season 6. So yeah, best of luck. I'm assuming going to sign off after I talk about the commentary on these videos. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see everyone in the next video. So this is example number 1 of how you're envisioning you're going to win will ultimately allow you to win the match. So Zekrom versus Melmetal, fairly neutral matchup. Typically Melmetal wins this matchup because it does resist the Dragon Breaths. So here comes a Rock Slide. But Zekrom definitely puts up a pretty big fight, because obviously double resists the Thunder Shocks. They actually have superpower and bailing, So I switched into Groudon. So this is looking pretty good for me. Except for this Melmetal still going to be kind of a pain. So I'm going to end up shielding here. Or otherwise they potentially could Dragon Breath me down. And as well, I want to encourage them to shield as well. I do go straight for this Fire Punch, which, yeah, let's see if it's going to work out. They end up calling the bait, which is actually pretty bad for me. So I build up. They're close to another move. So I'm going to look to throw this Fire Punch and potentially farm down. So I also realize that this is Butter's team. So we're going to see Dragonite come in, which is not great for me. I do have a Dialga in the back, though. So let's see how we're going to play this out. They are going to be able to farm me down. Potentially, I could have switched out into Melmetal. But I do want to line up Dialga with Dragonite. Because if they would have read the head Dragonite in the back, that would have been pretty bad for me to stay in. So this is not looking fantastic for me. Actually, I have Melmetal. What I'm talking about. I have a Melmetal. Yeah. Okay. Hey, I completely forgot what team I was running here. But anyways, this is looking pretty good for me. This is the matchup I want. Melmetal versus Dragonite. They switch out. I'm going to throw the superpower to burn the shield or do a lot of damage. And let's see what they want to do. They end up shielding. Makes sense on their side. I debate what to do here, whether I should go Wild Charge or Crunch. Crunch is the safer move. They're very unlikely to shield because the Wild Charge wouldn't KO anyways. And it'd be very gutsy call to go Wild Charge here. So I'm going to let this go because I'm not debuffed at all. I should be able to live this pretty comfortably. And I really need to get to this Crunch charge move. And I realized that my secret to winning in this match is on Melmetal. It's basically preserving Melmetal. So I'm not going to shield at all. If I get this shield here, that's great. They do a really nice job at farming extra before throwing. Because they realize I can't Thundershock down. So I'm just going to let this go. There's no point in saving this because this Melmetal can definitely outspam Zekrom. And I'm so low on HP. So they still have some... They should be almost energy dry at this point in time. So they superpower. And I'm looking to Rock Slide them. Because they're debuffed. And they make a really nice switch here. And then I realize that if I KO this Dragonite, I'm 100% going to lose. Because they're going to be able to outpace me to the move. I am in Rock Slide range. I'm in superpower range. So I undercharge there. So I realized that the only way I'm going to win here is actually to undercharge against Dragonite. I probably undercharged too much there. But there's not really much this Dragonite can do against my Melmetal. And I know that I just need to land a superpower. They're not at a move yet. So I was going to build with 2, then throw. But basically, I'm in a really good spot here. And that allows me to land the superpower because they're only 2 Thundershocks away from the superpower. So in that case, I undercharged to be able to win the game because I realized that Melmetal still had some extra energy. And the only way I'm going to be able to win the matchup is to come out of the Dragonite with some energy. So that's example number 1 of how you envision while you're playing how you're going to win the game. And that will influence you to make the right decisions and not just play out individual matchups, but play out the entire battle. So anyways, enjoy example number 2. So this is part 2 or example 2 of how to envision how you're going to be able to win the match. So I'm going to show this match here that I played in the Ultra Premier in Season 4. So this is obviously a fantastic lead for me. Escavalier into Abomasnow. They switch out into Ampharos. So this is, again, I have a really great counter switch here. But they play this pretty interestingly. So they throw the move here, which I'm just gonna take. It's a Dragon Pulse. I actually thought it was gonna be a Thunder Punch, but I should have guessed it was gonna be Dragon Pulse just based off the fact that they were shiny. I'm gonna fake the Earthquake even though I actually don't have it. So this is fine. This is all looking pretty good for me. And then I don't want to get hit by a Thunder Punch or be forced to shield. So I'm going to throw right away here. Potentially I could have farmed up a little bit more. Yeah, like I could have did one more, but that's fine. This is gonna be a Thunder Punch. I don't want to lose switch advantage. Um, yeah, so I don't want to lose switch advantage. So, but I'm gonna let this go. So I realize it's not a Dragon Pulse. Oh, they come back into Abomasnow. So nice aggressive play by them. And I'm gonna throw the Aerial Ace, which they end up not shielding. So I'm not going to shield on this side because I realize that they do have a better counter to Escavalier than Ampharos. So I had to be really careful here. And I'm going to let this go as well. So I'm able to counter down, which is fantastic. They come to Charizard. Then I realize that I'm in a little bit of trouble here. I am going to throw the Aerial Ace to chip away at this Charizard or potentially grab a shield. So they end up letting it go. Makes sense. Aerial Ace is a pretty bad move. There's no stab on it. So at this point in time, I realize my win condition is to sack switch. Right, that's how I'm going to win. So I'm reading how my opponent likes to throw their charge move. So it looks like they don't like to overcharge, so they like to throw right away. They go straight for the blast burn. So I know it's going to be 5. So there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. Oh, and I wait a little bit, and then I let it go. I also lose CMP versus the Charizard with Swampert, so there's no point in even having that move there. And then I'm going to look to Charm down. Basically, that's my win condition here. I know that they're not going to get to a Blast Burn, so I just Charm down this Ampharos, and then I Charm down the Charizard, and that's example of number 1 of how you envision how you're going to win. So at that point in time, I knew I was going to sack switch. I was just evaluating how my opponent was going to throw their energy, when they like to throw, and then using that to anticipate what to do next. So anyways, that's example number 1, or example number 2, I should say, of how you can how can you envision how you're ultimately going to win.